Greetings from Bellevue, Tennessee. This is Matt Osmond with Blinky's Offset Barbecue, and you're listening to The Barbecue Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike your match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central show. This is the show where we talk about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire, fun, and frivolity show. If you'd like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening. In case you didn't get the newsletter, coming up in about 12 minutes from now, a second-time guest, a creator of a website and subsequent YouTube channel called The Barbecue Lab. It's all about wireless thermometers tonight. David Gafford rejoins the show. We'll talk about all the latest brands of wireless thermometers, but more importantly than that, David has just released a very involved, wide-ranging, and encompassing video over at his YouTube channel about all the major players in this particular space. So we're not going to just blow the YouTube load. We will encourage you to go watch the video, but we'll go some high level on things, get some of the top performers. We are in the holiday season, so there might be some gift-giving thoughts, so why not hear from David and hear from me? And then make your thoughts and your selections as you see fit, but armed with a little bit more consumer information here. The Barbecue Lab, like the Consumer Reports for the live fire industry, so happy to have David here this evening as we lead off. Then 35 past the first hour, CreatorCookoutNews.com. Wes Wright rejoins us. I think he was off last month while we were doing the Fred Bernardo origin story. Barbecue Central Show's guest, Hall of Famer Fred Bernardo. So we'll catch up with Wes. Got a number of topics to talk about, all new, some patent things coming out, some people going out of business, some people bringing new things to market, all the fun stuff that you've come to know and love Wes for. You will find 35 past the first hour. That'll bring a close to the first hour. We'll move to the second hour, and in her last quarterly appearance in 2024, which she's done a number of years now in a row, Susie Bullock from Hey Grill Hey. Believe it or not, we're a week and a few days away from Thanksgiving 2024, so we'll be heavy on the Thanksgiving talk with Susie. We'll also talk a little patio provisions business, but also talk a little volleyball as we end the segment and year with Susie. Could be a Triple T sighting, not sure on that, but we'll see as it goes. And then closing out the show here this evening, a show friend, also a Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer this year, Steve Ray, Owl's Nest Barbecue proprietor and founder of the historic Steve Ray's Midnight Oil in Ooltewah, Tennessee. Always the funniest name of any city I've ever heard, Ooltewah. I mean, how do you even spell that? Ooltewah. That's how the show's laying out. Dave Gafford, Wes Wright, first hour, Susie Bullock, and Steve Ray in your second hour. Don't forget you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, and LinkedIn, all at the handles at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching the show tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show or twitter.com/BBQ Central Show. Or you can watch the show on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we have a new YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. Do you think the Mike Tyson fight was fixed? And 75% of you are saying yes, indeed you do. 25% of you are saying no, you don't. And the yes, you do's are right. I'm not really a sports guy. You don't see anything other than just live fire stuff 99% of the time on my Instagram and social media feeds. But I was heavily invested, not from a betting standpoint, but from wanting to see the fight come off after watching Mike Tyson during his training, and then to see whatever that abomination of a staged boxing match was on Friday night. Disappointing to say the least. And by the way, we're up to 80% thinking it was a scam. There's also the poll from last week. Is it a shame that Doug Scheiding has met Sam the cooking guy in person more than me? And 79% of you are saying yes. That is a shame. But I'll work to rectify that. And we'll start here this evening. It's the least shocking news, the least shocking thing from a reaction standpoint as it relates to the show from last week, which was the Chris Young segment. Gang, I agree with you. My mind was blown when he delivered the news that cooking a turkey from completely frozen is the way to go. Not only for this Thanksgiving, but for every time you cook a turkey here on forever if you get it frozen. I should have asked him, if you get a fresh turkey, should you freeze it solid and then cook it the way he was going after it? But he said that's the way to go. And it's the fastest way to go as well. Completely frozen, 18-pound turkey in a 225-degree oven, and 5 hours later, turkey done. No weeks worth of defrosting, then brining, then doing all that other nonsense we have for decades. Stop that stuff. Instead, cook it frozen. Chris Young continues to shake and rattle and destroy the very foundations that our cooking lives have been built on. And by the way, good for him. We didn't mention it because the segment was so good. Chris has agreed to do a quarterly segment in 2025. How about that? Really, the question is this. Do you, the listener / watcher, or however the hell you consume this show, do you believe in Chris's findings as far as cooking the frozen turkey is the better way to go? Do you believe in those findings? And if so, will you be giving his frozen turkey method a try this Thanksgiving? If not, will you be giving it a shot when there isn't as much pressure to not screw up the turkey? I'm probably not going to get this one past the goalie this year, but I will try it before the year is out, that's for sure. My curiosity is piqued, to say the least. If you missed the segment, make sure you go back and get last week's show, which is November 12th, and it's the lead segment in the first hour, so be sure to tune in. All right, email from Terry in Kentucky. Greg, catching up on the podcast files. I have to tell you, I would never do what Bob White did to you, throwing you under the bus like that when he was talking to that team you mistakenly called by the wrong name at the American Royal this year. Shame on Bob. However, you did say the wrong name, right? Love the show. Regards, Terry.
Terry?
Hey, Terry. For 98% of that email, I was like, he's finally with me. There's no going against me. It's me and it's Terry, and we're wrecking shop. We're bulls in a china shop. And then at the end, you did point out the fact that I called that team the wrong name. The Arkansas Razorracks is the right name. I called them the Razorbacks. That Bob and now you, Terry, are pointing out. So I still question the words after you write your email, love the show. Love to pick apart the show is probably more like it. Terry. Thanks for calling, or thanks for writing in. Happy Thanksgiving, Terry. Well, the good news is David Gafford is ready to go. And before we get to him, I will talk to you quickly about Schwank Grills. It's the gang. It's the grill that everybody's talking about, I can tell you that. You're seeing it all over social media. You're hearing me talk about it week in and week out. It's the Schwank Grill, SCHWANK. What do you need to know? Well, you know it can get blistering hot, up to 1,500 degrees with that infrared burner technology. That same technology you can put in your backyard are the same burners that Morton's and Del Frisco's and Cut 432 are using in their restaurants. Not just infrared burner technology, but the Schwank Grills infrared burner technology. It's literal restaurant quality heat in your backyard. Ultra portable. Certainly we are in the meat of football season, whether it's college, whether it's NFL. I don't even know if there's some type of minor league football going on, maybe Canadian League. Canadians can buy this. You're allowed. But Canadians more than anybody want a deal. Of course you do. Well, starting 4 days ago on the 15th and going until December 2nd, you can get the following increased discounts. $250 off a grill, plain and simple. But if you want to save $350 off, you can get that grill plus a modern grill table. Now for the maximum savings, dare I say $450 off a purchase, you get the grill, the modern grill table, and the grill cover. Pair all of those three together. I will personally take off $450. What's the code, you ask? You don't need a code. Go to schwankgrills.com right now, SCHWANK. Get the grill, the modern table, and the grill cover, $450 off. You know how many cans of propane you can buy with that? 8 or 9 at least. Maybe more. Probably more. My math, suspect. Many different ways you can navigate to the Schwank Grills website and not have to use a code to save. You can go to the homepage. You can click on the logo on the show website. You can click a link in the show notes or in the newsletter every week. Saving $250, $350, or $450 off just by going to schwankgrills.com. No code needed. We're back with the Barbecue Lab right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookandpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all of your pellet-driven cookers. You visit cookandpellets.com to see their products, and then when you're ready to purchase, you go to Amazon.com or Walmart.com or Lowe's.com. Same great products, just superior shipping rates. The good folks over at cookandpellets.com. My first guest tonight creates some of the most comprehensive barbecue and grilling reviews that can be found across the worldwide global internet. Tonight, we are going in on the wireless thermometer sector of the industry because he just released a video that is covering a large swath of them. So let's welcome back the creator of the Barbecue Lab, our pal David Gafford. All right, David, before we get into wireless thermometering, we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. Do you think the Mike Tyson fight was fixed, yes or no?
100% fixed. Oh, yeah. I think it was fixed.
87% of the YouTube voting public agreeing with you and me that fight was indeed fixed. So let me just say up front, I want everybody who is interested in this particular wireless thermometer topic to go to the Barbecue Lab YouTube page and check out the full video. Not exactly at this moment, but perhaps as soon as David's done. Leave the show, go watch the full video. We'll be doing some high-level info sharing here in this segment, but make sure you watch the video because there's a lot of great information that you're going to want to check out, especially if you're in the market for a wireless thermometer here during this holiday season. So before we get some results, David, how do you choose what to measure or assess to give the potential consumer the best info possible?
I really test what I want to know as a consumer myself. There's so many different ones on the market, and the question is which ones are just full of it and which ones can really deliver. And so I test the things that I really want to know and one that I would buy. So we come up with usually about 25 different tests. We can't test all 25 in one video. This one's already over a half hour long, not even testing 25 things, but we try to test the things that will really communicate to the end user what it is that they really desire and what they need in a probe, and help them answer which one's right for them.
Having so much time behind you testing products, can you ever look at a product just by price point and go, oh, this one's probably going to be trash, or this one's probably going to be great, or is it always never judge a book?
I mean, I've definitely found some that you can't judge a book. I mean, even in this one, we had a really low-priced probe that did pretty well. It just comes back to there are some really high-priced things that I've tested where I would go, yeah, I would never buy that. And there's some lower-priced things that I've tested where I've gone, you know what? I could keep that in my arsenal. I'm good for that one.
What brands are we testing in this video?
There are actually 9 different probes in this video, and I still love that I had my own Terry in the comments bringing me the,
Terry?
hey, why didn't you test this one? Yeah, my own Terry. Terry, you stay out of my comments, dude. We haven't met yet, but I'm just telling you. But the first comment of the whole entire video is, you left this one out. What are you doing? I can't believe you left it out. Dude, we had 9 probes. Give me a break. But so we tested the meter, we tested the ThermalWorks RFX meat, we tested the fireboard, we tested combustion, we tested Chef IQ, we tested meat stick, basically almost every one of them, except for the one that my Terry called out, which I can't even remember what it was. It was so forgettable.
I see the list, and right off the rip, ThermalWorks stands out, Fireboard stands out, they're a sponsor of the show. Combustion Inc. stands out. Not a sponsor of the show, but the guy that creates it is pretty awesome at the content he's currently creating and the myths he's debunking. So as a unbiased guy that's interviewing you, I just immediately go to, well, we're probably going to be looking at these 3 towards the lead and then trying to figure out what the bottom half or the bottom 75% look like. Did you do a test in advance of any cooking to see how accurate each of these thermometer was? For instance, do a boiling water test, I don't know where your elevation is, or do an ice bath test, or both to either get the 212 or the 32?
I didn't do any of that because I took it exactly how it would come from the manufacturer. And I took it right out of the box. And the first thing that we did was this test. So we didn't do anything to it. We took it exactly as it came from the manufacturer. And my 2 cents is if the manufacturer can't ship us one that's ready to go, then they get the results that they get.
Wireless thermometers inherently scream tech. How important is the user interface on the smart device in your findings?
That was one of the things that we spent the most amount of time in the video, primarily just because there are some of them that are very interactive and very intuitive, and there are others that they're just not. there were a couple that I was really hoping that I could touch the graph and be able to tell what my temperature points were on the graph. And I'm going through there, and you can even see it in the video, and I'm touching it and nothing happens. I touch another area and nothing happens. And I mean, here I am on screen just going, well, I guess you can't do anything with this app. I mean, it was disappointing, but there are others that you can interact with, and almost every area of the screen is interactive, and you can even export your data, and there's online places where you can access your data and work with them in other areas, which is incredibly helpful to me as I'm trying to make charts and graphs of all of the things that we're doing. If I can go online and pull that data off of a computer, incredibly helpful for me. Now, is it that helpful for the average consumer? Well, it depends on what the average consumer is doing, but for someone who's a tech nerd that wants to know all of their data points on their 12-hour pork butt cook, it might be great.
Which products had the best app experience? Top 3, top 4.
I'd say top 3. I mean, I'm going to have to go with Fireboard. I'm going to have to go with ThermoWorks. And I really enjoyed the Combustion app the more I got to know it. The Combustion app really surprised me because you can see all of the sensors in the probe, and you can see all of the reporting temperatures of all 8 sensors. That's something that's rather uncommon. You can get it in maybe 1 or 2 others, but they had by far the most data. If you're really a data nerd and you want to really dial into that, there was a ton of data there.
Is that a potential issue where you're seeing, I think it's 8 different sensors reporting potentially 8 different temperatures at any given point? Does the nervous cook get more nervous?
I mean, I think it definitely could make you more nervous. But one of the things that I found is that I could look at one that was marked core, and it's showing me this is where my absolute center of the meat is. I love that. There's another one that says surface. And so it's trying to give you the surface temperature of the meat. And then you have one that's the ambient. And all of the others just ended up having names like, A1 or S1 or things like that, that it really kind of showed me that it's a throwaway data point that you don't necessarily need for this cook. I like that it kind of dialed that in for me, but at the same time, there's a button you can press that kind of, hides those extra data points. So if you are nervous about it, you don't have to see all that. You just don't click on the advanced settings.
Which units of the ones you mentioned are really made to be close to the cooker, and you shouldn't expect too much else?
I mean, the temp spike was 100% a close to the cooker unit. We were testing limits, and I think it disconnected at the 6 foot mark, which is something that it says you got to keep it within 6 feet. I mean, we put it exactly at 6 feet and it disconnected. So that's disappointing, especially for something that costs, well over $100 for a single probe. So that wasn't great. We had some pretty good we had some pretty good range on the others, but the thing that really, sets them apart from each other is the ones that use that low frequency radio wave as opposed to the ones that don't. Because you're talking about, much greater distances where we had even a range test through the entire house. And so we had, I don't know how many walls, 4 or 5 walls of the house that we went through all the way through the outside of the house on both ends to our front porch. And the low frequency radio waves worked 2 out of the 3 to get through all of that. 1 did not make it through that.
Which unit performed better than you might have thought? In other words, there are some pretty heavy hitters that I had mentioned there a couple minutes ago. So which one did you think, after you get done testing, says, hey, you know what? Maybe I didn't have that big of an expectation, but this one really did their job?
I mean, for me, it's the Chef IQ. I mean, I hadn't ever worked with a Chef IQ product before. They have a single probe, they have a double probe, and a triple probe that you can get for these. And I was thoroughly impressed with the performance. I didn't have a lot of disconnects. I really had quite good range. I found the temperature accuracy to be as good or even better than some of the others. And it came in on the low end of the price point. So that was one that I was ready to write off going into the testing, but it surprised me. So I would give that one a look for sure.
Top 2 units as you're testing them in the smoker.
Top 2 units as we're testing in the smoker, it really comes down to the ThermoWorks and the Fireboard. I mean, so the special mention comes down to the Combustion as well. But really the 2 prize fighters in the ring, to go back to your Tyson, question earlier, I mean, your Holyfield and your Tyson were the Fireboard and the ThermoWorks RFX. Those 2, so much data, so much control. They really were heads above the others. Outside of, like I said, the combustion really plays in that game too.
So those two also tops in the grilling aspect, because when as you see the video, there's like in the smoker portion, but then you do a pretty intense high heat live fire situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought you were asking overall, but if I was going to go in the smoker, I love the ones that give me the 5-minute warning before I need to pull my meat off. And that was something that on some of them, I couldn't figure out how to get that warning in the first cook or two. It was the kind of thing where you'd really have to sit down and read the book to understand it. And I'm going to be honest. How many of us sit down and read the full book of the products we buy? We take the probe out of the box, we pull the battery strip or whatever it is we need to do, and we plug it into the meat, and we expect it to work, and we expect it to be able to be easy to figure out. That was part of the challenge that I wanted to give these probes, is not having worked with hardly any of them before. I wanted to kind of experience them on camera for everybody. And there were quite a few times where I went, yeah, I don't know how to find what I'm looking for. And you can find that in the video. So in the smoking test, I think that the ones I liked the most were the Fireboard and the RFX. Those two really gave me my best. And when you get over to the grilling side, there were a couple that did not enjoy the high heat grilling. And as you looked at the ones that didn't enjoy the high heat grilling, they were very honest about their temperature limitations in the manual and on their website. So the ones that you want on high heat grilling, you want something that you can grill over 700 degrees, up to 1,000 degrees. I start getting nervous when I take my probe and put it up to 1,000 degrees in high heat, because let's be honest, these things aren't cheap. And you're going to roast that thing at 1,000 degrees for 8 or 10 minutes. And is it going to be okay? So I think you got to be careful with your salamander style grills and things like that, where you're cooking over 1,000 degrees and you want to put these probes in there. I think you're going to have to be really strategic about where the external portion of the probe sits in order to make sure it's safe. But in that high heat environment, I mean, Fireboard did great. I know the ThermalWorks RFX did great. We had a little bit of a barking command from the meter saying you're reaching our limit here. But that was something that I didn't expect. I thought I could go higher with that, but it gave me a little bit of a pause. And I think that they're rated at 1,000 degrees, but it was giving us a little bit of a fit at lower temperatures. So that was a little bit of a surprise on the high heat grill.
We talked about the three that you thought probably did the best. Was there a best value pick out of the bunch?
Yeah, Chef IQ for me.
Oh.
That's one that I think if I was talking to somebody who said, yeah, I only want to spend $75 on a probe, I would say absolutely look at the Chef IQ. I mean, having never used it before this cook, I walked away from this video saying that's what I would tell my friends who are looking for a value wireless probe. And the fact that you can get 3 of them for not even that much more, I think it's less than double the price for 3 probes. That's pretty dang good.
I'm going to make a series of statements, and then you tell me your thoughts. The ambient temperature probe is the most worthless measurement on Earth when it comes to these devices. In fact, it should be taken out completely.
The ambient testing that we did was very interesting, because I don't know how much you talked about this, but the idea is the ambient temperature is what, an inch, maybe an inch and a half away from the meat that you have it stuck in. You have this area of false temperature that it's measuring temperature in, and it's just not that accurate. Now, when you start taking that off of a probe and you put it on a wired probe, I have to say it's much more accurate. But then you have the problem, it's not wireless anymore. And this is the fight that people want to throw fists on. You know, whether your wireless probe can have a wired probe or whether you should have the ambient on there at all. I do not enjoy the wireless ambient accuracy. It's all over the place. I mean, if you look at the data, we have a chart in the video that you can download. If you go to our website, you can actually click a download and get all of our data charts on this. But one of those charts showed that the closest ambient wireless probe was still 35 degrees off in the first hour. It was bad.
All of these companies are overthinking what the consumer wants. Focus on accuracy of the thermometer and getting maximum range through obstructions, and that's it.
I mean, I think you're probably right on. I think everybody wants as many features as they can possibly get crammed into one probe for the lowest price possible. But then reality hits and you have to say it costs money to do all those things and the price continues to go up. So, I mean, if I could just get accuracy and range, I'd love it. But it's accuracy plus range plus 15 other things, and that it causes problems.
Less than 1 out of 10 people will use a wireless thermometer in a deep fryer.
Probably. I think deep fryers have gotten a real bad rap over the years, just from a health perspective. I don't think a lot of people have deep fryers, and I don't think a lot of people are just grabbing a gallon of oil to be able to fire up a Dutch oven on their stove to fry fish or anything else. So I don't think frying is a huge thing that people do. But yet, if you read the comments of any of the wireless probe videos, it's always, can I deep fry? Can I deep fry? Can I deep fry? So I don't know if they've got a Max fryer out back and they're, running a fish fry for their local soccer team. I mean, maybe, but I don't think 1 in 10 maybe even does the deep frying.
A year from now, we will be having this discussion again, but with a host of new companies jumping into the sector because it's all the rage.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there was a probe that popped out even in the middle of our test. So we tested 8 probes in this video. Halfway through the test, another one showed up. So we added another one to the video. And then in the time since I've actually launched the video, I've had other companies contact me saying, can we get on the next one? And I'd never even heard of some of these companies before. So the next time, I think a year from now, I could run Best Thermometer and have 16 thermometers in there from 16 different companies. Probably no problem.
Here's a counter statement to that. A year from now, we won't have this discussion at all because the market will be set with the standards and it won't be setting the world on fire at all.
I mean, maybe. I think that my experience is if I can use a wireless probe in a cook, I want to use a wireless probe in a cook. In the video, I showed where I was doing 8 different turkeys for an event that I was doing for a local youth group here. And the 8 different turkeys, I was using a 6-channel fireboard, and I had all 6 wired probes in there. And every time I went to go check a temperature or anything else with a manual, instant read, I was pulling probes out. Every time I moved a drawer, I was moving. It was a mess. And so I love wireless probes. But is even someone like me who does a lot of cooking around here and even large scales, am I willing to put, 10 wireless probes in the budget for $150 a piece? Am I willing to spend $1,500 for the wireless probes to be able to do what I'm going to do? Or do I just spend the $15-20 in the wired probes and I just suck it up and deal with it? It's probably going to be that. But I would rather have the wireless probes, but I am cheap, Greg. I don't want to spend $1,500 on 10 wireless probes.
I mean, we prefer frugal where I come from. There's no reason to say cheap. Could I make an argument to you and say, David, well, instead of buying 10, buy half the amount or buy 5 and stick one in the top hotel pan and then stick 1 or 2 in the middle hotel pans and then stick 1 at the bottom. You're getting an average, roughly everything's the same size. Certainly you know what you're doing. That way you can lessen the expenditure, maximizing your frugalness, but getting away from the wires.
Yeah, I mean, I like how you use the word frugalness. I mean, I think that my wife would still say cheap, but I'm going to go with frugalness.
Fiscally responsible?
Exactly. I am very fiscally responsible. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
But I definitely could use half wired probes and half, wireless probes. But I find that the larger the cooker that I'm getting into, especially when you're talking about pellet cookers and you're talking about some offsets, even that airflow is not equal. And so I have hot spots, I have low spots, I have medium spots. And depending on where I even take those hotel pans, it's going to even change where those spots go. So even though I've used a grill 20 times, I still want to know, especially if I'm running turkeys where I have breasts in there, I want to know where my breasts are running so I'm not drying those things out where it's inedible. And so if I'm running 8 turkeys, I want 8 probes. So I could, but yeah, I don't know.
Is there a pretty big fluctuation in that Outlaw you got? Or that Lone Star grill?
It depends. It depends on how many pans I'm using. That I have some fluctuations.
Yeah.
I mean, the lower right hand section, right over the fire pot, definitely hotter than the rest. But it depends on where you put your pans, where the airflow is going to go, and how it's going to actually make things hot or not. So that's something I've only had it. Hey, kitty. I've only had it for, a little bit, but I'd say I'm 15 or so cooks in. But as I'm putting my hotel pans in that grill, I'm still trying to figure out how I put them in there in such a way where I can control that airflow and know where my hot, medium, and cold zones are going to be.
Love that cooker. Maybe we can talk about it when you come back on in 2025. By the way, David Gafford will be appearing quarterly in 2025, which we certainly appreciate. In the meantime, check out his YouTube page. Go to the website, thebarbecuelab.com. David, appreciate the insight here on the wireless thermometers, and have a great holiday season. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Greg. Have a great one.
You got it. Great insight. As I had mentioned at the top of that segment, make sure you head on over to the Barbecue Labs website and the YouTube page, more importantly. Watch that whole video. Does a lot of great tests, and the range test is great. You can really see the true players from the pretenders on that one. Wes Wright is ready to go. Before we get to him, I bet I don't have Wes Wright's name right now that I'm thinking about it. That's my fault, Wes. I didn't send you the normal link. You used the last one you had. Nevertheless, if you're serious about your grilling game and you need to check out the latest from Pits and Spits, they've launched 2 game-changing products that will take your outdoor cooking to the next level: the griddle and the built-in pellet grill. Let's kick things off with the Pits and Spits griddle. The gas griddle combines the power of a traditional grill with the versatility of a flat top. Engineered with precision and crafted from top-quality materials, the versatile griddle is set to revolutionize your outdoor cooking experience. Constructed in 304 marine-grade stainless steel, fully welded design, the griddle comes with 4 burners to accurately manage your heat zones and gets blistering hot with 80,000 BTUs. Made with the Pits and Spits signature quality, the griddle is designed to last for generations. Now, for those of you building your ultimate outdoor kitchen, you have to check out the built-in pellet grill, designed for the discerning grill master who demands top-tier performance. The grill is the centerpiece of any serious outdoor kitchen, from low and slow smoking to high-heat searing. This grill can do it all: briskets and ribs, pizzas, veggies, you name it, this grill can cook it. And with the Pits and Spits legendary craftsmanship, you can be confident it's built to last, with stainless steel construction and a design that's reliable as it is versatile. So are you ready to take your cooking to the next level? Head on over to pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central and use the promo code BBQ Central for a free spice pack with orders over $500 or more. Once again, the website is pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. Pits and Spits spelled with the double T on the pits and the spits. pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central, and then promo code BBQ Central for a free spice pack with orders over $500. We're back with Wes Wright right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we thank Dave Gafford for joining us last segment of the barbecuelab.com, his website. The segment brought to you by Fireboard, makers of Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, Fireboard Beacon, and the aforementioned Fireboard Pulse, which did very well in the Barbecue Labs test. When you use the Fireboard app, you have total access to all devices anywhere in the world. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. My next guest tonight runs cookoutnews.com. Third Tuesday of the month, regular guest here, 35 past the first hour. Here to talk about the latest news in the live fire industry, our pal Wes Wright, who also goes by the name Steve Ray from Owl's Nest Barbecue. All right, Steve/Wes. Welcome back. We have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, which is this: do you think the Mike Tyson fight was fixed? Yes or no?
No, I don't think so. It's hard because I think they all knew the gimmick, right? You know.
I didn't.
Oh, really? I felt like Jake Paul knew he had to. He's not going to look good just blasting a 58-year-old man.
Oh,
like,
wait,
no one wants to see
you're
that, right?
on that side of things? You think that
I don't
you
know
think
the sides.
Jake Paul was going to demolish Mike Tyson?
I think he could have definitely in the later rounds knocked him out if he wanted to. I think, but he knows the gimmick. It's people are joining to watch a fight. They want to watch it go the distance and against a legend. I think it's entertainment. Is that fixed? I don't know. It's a fine line.
Yes, it's troubling, to say the least. It's... Never mind. We have plenty of stuff to...
No, what's your take?
I mean, it's... If you watch Mike Tyson training for this fight, and then you watch whatever version of Mike Tyson was in the ring Friday night, they were not even the same human beings. There were many times during the fight, if you go back, and you can go through all the social media of all the boxing nerds who broke out all the 25 different times in the fight that Mike Tyson could have just absolutely demolished Jake Paul, and then didn't.
Yeah.
That's fixed to me. And I can see it. First round, Jake Paul throws a right hook, misses wildly, and Tyson ducks it. And every other fight in his life, he's just instinctively countering with a right hook, and he's down. Or he hits him with a body blow. He never threw one uppercut in the whole match for 8 rounds. That's his signature punch. Has put people's lights out time after time. Didn't throw one uppercut. Go back through and see all that stuff. And to me, it just screams that either Mike Tyson wasn't allowed to actually box, or he wasn't allowed to hurt Jake Paul in some way in order to get the full monetary value out of whatever their deal was. I just saw a TikTok video, which I'm not saying is the truth at all, talking about how the contract was structured and he wasn't allowed to do a whole bunch of different things. And if he got to round 7 and 8, that maximized how much he was going to be getting out of the payout. So it's a cash grab. Okay, look, I'm America's biggest cash grabber, but guess what? I was never the world's toughest man and heavyweight champion. So Mike Tyson will never hear this. He's a punk.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I agree with that. I think they both were there to maximize whatever they were given. Both Mike Tyson and Cleveland's own Jake Paul.
By the way, Cleveland's own Mike Tyson.
Is he? I thought he was from Brownsville or something like that.
Well, I mean, like he did a lot of Brooklyn stuff, but he spent a lot of time here in Cleveland, years.
Okay.
Yeah. So he has quite a take on Cleveland Heights and some of the other cities that are a tad sketchy, and some of his other videos that I've seen online. We could talk boxing all day, of course, because we are fight experts, to say the least. But instead, let's steer away from that for now and talk about something that everybody loves to talk about. Tariffs. Wes, not sure if you realize this or not, but there was a new president elected a couple weeks ago. He has frequently talked about slapping on major tariffs for imported products. And I don't think it's a stretch to say most grills we buy here in the good old US of A, politics aside, are not made here in the US of A. So what will tariffs do to the cost of the product if this actually happens in the way it's currently being talked about?
Yeah, I think all the grill companies have commented on it and been asked about it on their earnings calls. And, you know, invariably, one way or another, if a tariff was imposed, you're going to see price increases, right? But it's going to be through a couple different ways. Every company that I listened to said, you know, we're going to optimize our supply chain to avoid it. So like Traeger builds in China and Vietnam primarily. So if there's a tariff on goods from China, they'll try to flex their supply chain to Vietnam to try to avoid that tariff. And then even doing that, though, they're not currently set up to do that. So there's a cost associated with that, and they have earnings that they have to keep up. So that would lead to a price increase. And then every company I heard said, if we can't do it through supply chain, we're going to do it through pricing. So we're going to increase our pricing. And long term they'll try to minimize that. Traeger, before the whole grill market crashed back in 22, they were trying to near shore in Mexico and were building a plant that they pulled a plug on. And so they'll try to find the cheapest way to still get the product, but whatever they do, they're going to have to do something that's going to increase their cost basis. So they're not just going to eat that, right? And
right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So it gets passed on because, investors want to see consistent earnings growth every quarter, and they're not just going to say, oh, no, we get it. We understand. But, and I think the winner in a lot of that are companies like Pits and Spits, who, like, their Maverick pellet grill is not too much more expensive than, some other ones on the market that are produced overseas, and they won't have that issue, right?
Napoleon is in the news, and we've mentioned it literally for years, which is this Napoleon full-size electric grill. It appears that it might actually be happening. So what can you update us on?
Yeah, they announced that in the spring of 22 and said it was going to come out in the fall of 22. And, then the fall came and never happened. And they just had that same website that just said coming soon instead of fall. And then years went by. And they released it in kind of a funny way because they never formally released the product. What they did that we saw last year this time, if you remember, is they said they're an honoree for innovation at the Consumer Electronics Expo. So they didn't release the grill, but there was a press release about them getting that award on a grill they never announced that they released. So I just kind of dug into it and tried to figure out what I could on it. And yeah, that grill, it's going to be coming out soon. I have an article that I posted, and a bunch of people from Napoleon liked it, including their CEO. So that would imply to me that it is coming out and it's real. It'll come out in the spring, I'm guessing. They haven't given a date. It's a lot like they said it would be. That, it has a cool touch screen in the middle with a dial on each side, 2 zones for cooking. A couple of surprises, both good and bad. They have a smoker box that, just like a gas grill, it sits underneath the cooking grates, and it's set up so that way you can regulate the amount of smoke you want, and have the other side, the other zone for cooking your food. And it also has cast iron grates too, which is pretty cool compared to a lot of electric grills, which don't have that. The only downside, though, I know you're not a cast iron grate fan, but the only downside with the grill is they never mentioned before that it's only runs off 220, right? 220 volt outlet, which is not your standard plug in a house. So to buy the grill, you would need to get an electrician to run you a 220 outlet to the outside of your house.
Any idea what that costs? Like, if you got a buddy the electrician, is that going to be $1,500?
Yeah, I mean, like if you like a lot of electric cars, when you run lines for a new, charger, I've heard that be around $1,000, right? $750, $1,000 at least. So yeah, installation on your electric grill gets pricey, and it's kind of different too, because they're not like, we've seen like Fire Magic has a built-in electric grill, or Blackstone has a electric griddle that's built in. And those, it makes more sense because you're doing a whole outdoor kitchen build. So if you run a 220 line, you're already having contractors do everything else, right? But this is just like a plug-in standalone grill. So that was kind of surprising to me, especially given the cost just to make it work.
So 220 is going to give it more power, give you more of a traditional grilling experience from a heat standpoint?
Yeah, that's the idea. It's 220, 50 amp is what it takes. So it should heat up faster, have less of that temperature drop. And I think it has a max temp of 750 degrees. So it should give you just a more gas-like grilling experience.
In your opinion, do you think people will really call an electrician to add this to their home in order for them to use it?
I think it's a very small audience that'll do that. You'd have to really be dedicated to electric grilling, right? Because that's a lot of hoops to jump through just to use your grill, in my opinion.
Does Napoleon give any indication on what they expect this unit to do from a volume or market share number?
No, they haven't done that, and they haven't even released pricing on it too. Because that's the big thing is whatever the price is, you're tacking on another $1,000 just to use it. So, no, I think it'll be hard to sell. And two, they advertise that it's like a lot of other grill companies, that it's good for people that have like balconies or apartments that you can't use gas. But I'm like, you can't run a 220 line in an apartment. I don't think the landlord would be too happy about that. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
In the next year, who will be the leader in this segment, Charbroil or Napoleon?
I think Charbroil. I think they've been just innovating. I do think this Napoleon grill, that being said, I think it's going to be really cool, and I think it's going to be a great experience, but I just don't think it'll do the numbers that Charbroil with their current backyard brand are going to do. And I feel like they're just going to keep on innovating from everything I've seen on that platform.
If we move to Charbroil for the next set of questions, potentially introducing a swappable griddle top cooker.
Yeah, that was a cool idea that for a patent, that it's a griddle, but then on that griddle top, it's not just like a normal flat surface. There's a circular removable section and then a rectangular removable section. And sort of like how Cuisinart we saw last year released an outdoor wok, which was kind of unique. This, you can swap out that circular section for like a wok or different cooking instruments. You can put a pizza stone in there and close the lid and cook pizza. And then you can swap out for, just on the other side in the rectangular section, just like a grill spot rather than having it be a griddle. So it's a pretty cool idea for versatility.
Let's talk about Icy Breeze. Not necessarily a grilling tool, but something that might have cooled you off during a hot summer's grill sesh. Has Icy Breeze cooled its last human being?
That's what the CEO of Solo Brands said. Because
why would they even buy that? What are we doing over there?
I think it has to do because they switched CEOs, and I think the new CEO has come in and saying, all this stuff is crap that you guys did, and this is so I don't think he liked the brand, is my guess. He didn't say that, but he said that their latest product release doesn't live up to the standards of what they expect for their products. So I think that it was just, he viewed it as a sunk cost. So you spent $30 million on a brand a year ago, but you don't think the product's good enough, so you just kill the whole brand.
Did John Maris buy that?
Yeah, it would have been right at the end of his term, right before, because he was really into like direct-to-consumer brands, and they were one. And so, yeah, they bought it. Then he got fired, and then the new guy took over from Camp Chef and Vista Outdoor, and he's cutting a lot of stuff.
Wasn't Deion Sanders pitching Icy Breeze in the summer?
I believe he was, and I think I saw some Jeff Foxworthy ads too.
They seem to really like it. Shockingly,
they loved it. Yeah.
Shockingly, yeah.
Yeah. What's funny about it too is you can still buy it. Like the CEO made those remarks in an earnings call, which outside of me, like no one listens to, right? And he saying the product doesn't live up to their standards. You can still go to icybreeze.com or whatever their website is, and you can buy their cooler for 50% off. And they're still like promoting it. But you're kind of ignoring the fact that their CEO is also saying this product's not very good, right? Which to me is kind of strange, but I guess you got to sell out your inventory.
You ever had one blow on you before?
No, I thought it looked interesting, when you're out, especially out in front of a smoker, just have some cool air blowing on you, or if you're like kids sports, I guess, that's what I think what Deion Sanders is always saying. But have you used one?
Never, but I believe when this whole thing got going, I had the original founder of Icy Breeze on my show. It was probably over 10 years ago, or maybe it was even longer than that, but he was on. I was living in Wickliffe, Ohio at the time, so it would have been the house before this, but really probably when we moved into it, maybe when I had originally built the new studio down there. But I had him on the show. Maybe John Solberg can comb back through the archives, and try and not make a liar out of me, but I believe he was on the show and we were talking about Icy Breeze and how this thing was going to be the greatest thing ever. But he never sent me one, but and I don't know anybody that's ever owned one. And I've seen YouTube videos that say if you like Icy Breeze, here's how you make your own. But it involved things that you put on your drill and in a hole. And I was like, well, I'm out. That's way over my head from a handyman standpoint. So that was it. So I'm not going to lie and say I didn't think it might be cool to try, but it never was motivating enough for me to go out and actually buy one.
Yeah. I had the same sentiment. I thought it looked neat. I would have definitely taken like a media sample and tested it out, but they're also, they're going to re-release it. They said at some point next year under the Solo Stove brand. So they have the like intellectual property from it. And then they're going to create some type of new product. So maybe
they're going to trigger
we'll get the opportunity. They're going to, exactly. Yeah. And that ex-owner, he, that you had on probably he made out good. I mean, he got rid of it and then, got 30 million and then it got canceled.
What are you working on over the next 30 days we should be keeping an eye out for?
I'm seeing more and more product releases coming out. So I'm sure there's, keep an eye for that. For
holiday, or is this just a little shocking given the end of the year?
Around this time, some brands start announcing some stuff. There's also, for Traeger fans, they're supposed to have a new grill product, as they say, to come out in Q4 this year, and there's not a lot of time left. So I've been trying to figure out what that is ahead of time, but I haven't seen anything yet.
We'll keep our eye out. We'll head on over to cookoutnews.com, and you can also see Wes Wright right here on the show the third Tuesday of every month, 35 past the first hour. Wes, always appreciate the time, and we'll see you again next month.
Great. Thanks, Greg.
Always great information. If you're not visiting cookoutnews.com, shame on you. I go 3 or 4 times a week because he's always dropping great information. He's always finding trademark filings. He's at the top of his game. That's why he continues to be, in only his second or third year, a multi-time nominated Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame nominee. Hey, what do we love about ceramic grills? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that they can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for the high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts, but what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. But getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker isn't very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo in the game-changing oval design. This shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. When you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to configure the Primo cooker, so you're only limited by your culinary imagination. The bottom line is this: do they have the best ceramics in the business? Yes. Patented technology, of course. True two-zone cooking capabilities? I just talked about it. Do they have multiple sizes of ovals? Yes. Only sold through dealers. So go to primogrill.com and find a dealer near you. Visit the dealer in person, touch and feel all of the ovals, and then take the one home that best fits your needs. I recommend extra large at a minimum, but you do you. primogrill.com. Follow them on Facebook or the Instagrams. Hopefully you're on time for getting a Primo this holiday season. We're back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rampey.
And now it's a race to wrap it up. We thank Wes Wright for joining us last segment. Cookoutnews.com is his website. We are pointing to the second hour where we have two great interviews. We got some top of the second hour hot takes coming your way. We'll get a review of the poll question of the week. There's a lot going on in the next 60 minutes, so stay tuned. You're listening, watching the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.